My husband dated a beauty queen title holder who he broke up with long before we had met. However, I was the first serious girlfriend, now wife, that he dated after her, and once she knew about me, our lives became a nightmare for a while. I guess she always figured he would go back to her since she was so beautiful. On top of being crazy, she was also a narcissist. Anyway, we started dating, and then the phone calls started. She would call over and over at all hours of the night, forcing my husband to switch off his phone. So it escalated. I would start getting flat tires in my car, and then random dents in my car appeared. I had no proof this was her, of course, but it seemed too coincidental. She then started calling and threatening my husband that if he didn't give her money, she would call the police and report him that he used to abuse her. My husband was worried because, while he wasn't guilty of anything, it would be her word against his, and his reputation would be ruined. She approached me at a party when I came out of the bathroom. Ambushed me was more like it. "Where's your man? You should keep an eye on your man," she slurred in a heavy accent. It was intimidating because she was over 6 feet tall. I'm 5'5", and in heels she's about 6'5", no joke. She towered over me. I ignored her and walked away, but she followed me, not saying anything, just kept at the pace and walked beside me, sort of bending forward to be more eye level with me, looking straight at me with wide, crazy eyes, but walking, grinning maniacally. She was like a caricature of herself. After that, we stopped going to events if we had any inkling that she would be there. However, we did attend a funeral for a mutual friend. At the reception, I was talking to a couple I knew, and she just walked right up to me and stood with us. She stood there, as if part of the conversation, not talking, just standing there listening to our intimate group of 3. Completely crazy. I did not want to cause a scene at a funeral, so I just walked back to my husband, who had been talking to the man's widow. That was the final straw. We got a lawyer who sent her a cease and desist. It didn't faze her. She would call my husband from private numbers and say, "Hey there, it's me," in a sing-song voice like nothing had happened. 3 cease and desist letters later, she was still calling. We were finally able to get a restraining order. I used to be so intimidated by her. She was tall, blonde, statuesque, the epitome of a beauty queen. However, as I got to realize who she was, I realized she was the ugliest person I had ever met. When I see a picture of her, all I see is her mean, cold eyes. I don't see any beauty whatsoever. I used to think that beauty pageants were more than skin deep, that contestants were judged on more than just their looks. In this case, how wrong I was. I also found out that we were not the only ones to take a restraining order out against her. We haven't seen her in years, although we still to this day continuously get fake Instagram follower requests that I know are her. I know this because she is dumb enough to always have herself as a follower, or her brother, or follow random people in our lives. My friends' colleagues, my mom who lives in a different city, etc. I don't know why she just won't let go. My husband and I have a baby now, and I'm always vigilant. I truly don't know what she's capable of. She once had the world at her feet, and a platform that would have gave her opportunities the rest of us might never have. But she just wanted money with minimal work involved. She cheated people and used them. Last I heard, she became an escort and now lives in a shelter. Clearly there are mental issues at play here, but she was a terrible, opportunistic person long before that. Crazy beauty queen from hell. Let's not meet again. This happened a little bit ago, about a month, and it was a bizarre experience to say the least. I'm 15, and I was playing some video games before passing out. It was around 11 p.m. when I heard the doorbell ring. Out of instinct, I start walking downstairs. But about halfway there, rationality came to mind. Who the heck rings the doorbell at 11 p.m.? I silently strolled back upstairs and stood in the hall, kind of expecting something bad to happen. An exact minute later, it rings twice. My parents begin to leave their room, and they give me a quizzical look, and all I had to respond with was a shrug. Then he starts banging on the door. My mother jumps at the first bang, and my father's eyes widen, but more in confusion than fear. He decided to go downstairs and peep through the view hole. It was our neighbor. My dad hesitantly opens the door, and I can hear my father's voice tremble slightly. "Hey, what do you need?" The next thing I hear is a full-blown scream argument from our neighbor, claiming that this household is his, and we stole it from him. My father's uneasiness was quickly replaced with annoyance, and he simply shut the door without giving our neighbor the time of day. My dad stepped on the first step going up the stairwell when our neighbor first hit the door. I'm not talking bang with a fist. This man was full body slamming it. My father was stunned for a second, and my neighbor charged the door again. This time we began to hear the splintering of wood. Everybody reacted at once. My father went to brace the door with his body. My mother went to go get the other two kids, and I went for 911. The body slam ensued for another 5 minutes, and while I was on the phone with 911, it stopped. I thought it was over, and I was relieved, but I still stayed on the phone. I go peek out the front window of my house, and boy, was it only getting started. Our neighbor took his Jeep Wrangler and simply directed it straight at our house. We had zero clue what he was doing until he hit the gas and I heard the squealing of tires. Then he immediately hit the brakes. He was trying to scare us out of the house. I was still on the phone with 911, and I stepped away from the window to comfort my siblings, crack jokes and such. Eventually, the police arrived and arrested him. The next morning I left for school, still shaking from the night before. I stepped onto our front step and saw tire marks leading all the way up to our front door. This lunatic actually nearly rammed our door down with his car. I really never want to see this guy ever again, but he lives directly to my right. Screw me, right?